I'm Victoria Williams, and in today's video I'm going to talk about chords. Now, chords make harmony and harmony makes music, so this is one of the most fundamental aspects of music theory, being able to describe a chord. So we're going to take the notes of a chord and give it a name, and there are two ways of doing this. We can give it a name such as C major or A minor, or we can use something called Roman numeral notation, which is using the numbers of the degrees of the scale where that chord comes from. And we're going to look at both of those methods in the video today. I'll start with some easy ones so that you can get an idea of the process, and then we'll move on to some more complicated looking chords in real music. So let's get started. Let's start with this chord. The first thing you need to do is reorganise the notes so that they're all an interval of a third apart. When a chord is stacked in thirds, all the notes will be on lines, or all of them will be in spaces. You shouldn't have a combination of both lines and spaces, and the notes should be as close together as possible. Starting from the bottom, the notes are E, A and C. We need to stack it in thirds by changing the octave of one or more notes. I could move the E up an octave and all the notes would be in spaces, or I could move the A and C down an octave so that all the notes are on lines. The result is the same. We now have the notes A, C and E, again reading from the bottom upwards. You need to start by reading from the lowest note because that's the one that gives the chord its name. The lowest note here is A, so it's a chord of A, but what kind of A? Is it A major, A minor, or something else? Let's review the four types of triad or three-note chord. A triad can be major, minor, augmented, or diminished. Major and minor triads are the most common, but augmented and diminished chords are also widely used. The type of chord is determined by the interval qualities between each note in the stacked chord. We have to look at the interval made between the lowest note and the middle note, and between the middle note and the top note. They'll all be thirds, but they could be either major thirds, which is the equivalent of 4 semitones apart, or minor thirds, which would be 3 semitones. That gives us 4 combinations of stacks. A major third with a minor third on top makes a major chord or triad. C to E is a major third, and then E to G is a minor third. A minor third with a major third on top makes a minor chord. C to E flat is a minor third, then E flat to G is a major third. A major third with a major third on top makes an augmented chord. C to E is a major third, then E to G sharp is another major third. A minor third with another minor third on top makes a diminished chord. C to E flat is a minor third, and then E flat to G flat is another minor third. By the way, if you need a bit more help with working out interval qualities, I'll link my intervals video beneath this one for you. Now, let's go back to the chord we were working on. The interval between the lowest note, A, and the middle note, C, is a minor third. And then the interval between the middle note, C, and the top note, E, is a major third. So, this is a minor triad. And because the lowest note is A, its name is A minor. Let's look at how chords might appear in some actual music. This is the opening of Rachmaninoff's Piano Prelude, Opus 23, number 3. It's in D minor. I'll just ignore the first chord for a moment because it's got 4 notes in it, but don't worry, we'll come back to that one. The second chord also looks like it might have more than 3 notes in it at first glance. You need to look at all the notes on both staves, by the way, but actually there's only 3 different letter names used here, the notes A, E and C sharp. The other notes are just the same letter names in different octaves. The interval qualities are a major third with a minor third on top. So it's a major chord, A major in fact. Written as a chord symbol, major chords are just written with the letter name, so just A for this one. A chord of A minor would be written as AM, capital A, and then lowercase m for minor. A augmented would be written with a plus symbol, or sometimes a little triangle, and A diminished is written with a little O, like a degrees sign. Using the Roman numeral system, you need to know first what key you're in, and then work out which degree of the scale the chord is built on. We're in D minor, remember, and this is a chord of A. A is the fifth note in the D minor scale, so this is chord 5, which is a letter V in Roman numerals. Use a capital letter for major and augmented chords, and lowercase for minor and diminished chords. The augmented and diminished symbols are the same as before. This is a major chord 5, so we write a capital V. Let's try to work out the last chord in the bar. Pause the video for a moment while you have a go working it out. So the three notes in this chord are G, B flat and D. This is a chord of G minor, which we can write as either IV in lowercase Roman numerals, because G is the fourth note in the D minor scale, or GM in standard chord notation. Okay, I think we're ready to take a look at the first chord in the bar now. Remember, this one has 4 different notes in it, but don't let that worry you, just keep stacking them up in thirds. Here we've got the notes E, G, B flat and D. To find the name of the chord, start by just looking at the triad part, by which I mean the 3 bottom notes. E to G and G to B flat are both minor thirds. So this is diminished triad on E. The note at the top is measured from the note at the bottom, and it's an interval of a seventh. So this is called an added seventh chord. To show this in the chord symbol, we just write a number 7 after the name of the triad, so it becomes E diminished 7. E is the second note in the D minor scale, so in Roman numeral notation, this would be chord 2 diminished 7, written in lowercase letters. Look again at the chord written in the piano music. The lowest note in the chord was G when Rachmaninoff wrote it, but when we reorganised the chord to find its name, we moved the note E into the lowest position. The lowest note in a chord is a really important one because as the chords change, as the music progresses, these notes will create a tune of their own called a bass line. The chord which Rachmaninoff wrote with G in the bass is in what we call first inversion, which means that the second note from the fundamental chord is being used as the bass note instead of the lowest note of the fundamental chord. To talk about inversions, using Roman numeral notation, we use a lowercase letter, A, B, C or D. Here's a D minor 7 chord, or 1/7 in its 4 possible inversions. The letter A means a chord is in root position, or in other words, the lowest sounding note or bass note matches the lowest note from the fundamental chord. Letter B is for first inversions, C is for second inversions, and letter D is for third inversions, and these can only happen in 4-note chords. By the way, the inversion of a chord only depends on the lowest sounding note. The other notes above the bass notes can be in any order, and the name of the chord isn't affected. In standard chord notation, the bass note of an inverted chord is shown by a slash. D minor 7A is just DM7 because it's in root position. The bass note is the same as the fundamental note. In first inversion, it's DM7/F. Second inversion is DM7/A. And third inversion is DM7/C. The note after the slash just tells you what the lowest sounding note of the chord is. So there you have the basic process for working out chords. There are lots of other aspects about chords which I didn't have time to go into great detail in a short video, such as learning more about inversions. We just touched on that briefly. We also have chromatic chords, which are chords which have notes which don't belong to the key that you're in. And there are also chords with extra notes which aren't sevenths. You can add ninths, you can add 11ths, etc. You can also add some types of melodic decoration, such as pedals beneath the chord. So there are a lot more things to learn. Look out for part 2 of my chords video, which will be talking about some of these things in more detail. You can also hop over to my website where there are lots of lessons on chords and of course complete courses for all the grades, ABRSM and Trinity Music Theory. Thanks for watching, see you next time.